Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to look classy when you're not that classy. So if you look up the definition of what classy means, it says something like you're stylish and sophisticated. And I will say I am not sophisticated, and stylish is also very subjective. So this is not a video about like how to be old money, and I find that whole trend to be very strange because I don't know why anyone would want to pretend to be or look like they're old money, because that seems very inauthentic and it's just very strange and I don't get it. So it's nothing like that, but this is really a video about my definition of what I think is classy. So for the purposes of this video, I'm using a much looser definition of what classy means, and I would define classy as being polished but approachable. And I think that might be a better definition of what classy is in 2024. So put very simply, I would also define the word polished as really something very basic, which is having above average hygiene, okay? I'm not going deep here. I'm not trying to define polished as anything being sophisticated or anything like that, because quite frankly, I'm the first person to tell you I am not a sophisticated person, and I don't want to pretend to be either. So the other thing I also want to clarify is that being classy is not the same thing as being classic. So today I'm going to share with you 5 tips on how to look classy when you're not that classy. So again, polished but approachable. And I will say that none of these things require you to spend any money. I really just wanted to share these 5 things with you based on what I've been learning in my own life. And, you know, as much as my channel is about handbags and fashion, I really feel like I'm in my era right now of learning and growing. And kind of what I want to do on my channel is kind of diversify and keep my content a little bit more interesting beyond just handbags and share some of these things with you. So I hope you enjoy this, and let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to share with you, it might be obvious and something that you probably heard your entire life, but I think it's posture. So many of us have such bad posture, and a lot of it has to do with either not being fit and just having a weak core so that your muscles actually don't help support you to stay up straight, but also the culture that we live in of just scrolling on our phones all the time and just sort of having our necks bent and our shoulders slumped over. I think it's a really easy habit for all of us to fall into, to just not be conscious and aware of how our posture is. So I think sitting up and standing up tall and having your shoulders back makes such a huge difference to not only the way that you feel about yourself, but also in the way that you're presenting yourself to the world. This kind of posture feels really lazy, and it also feels like you're very unapproachable and you don't want to be bothered. Whereas when you can pull your shoulders back and sit up a little bit taller, and I think it makes a world of difference of just being approachable and therefore also feeling better. And some of the tips to help you, improve your posture, and something that I'm always working on, is just number 1, strengthening those upper back muscles and core muscles. But also there are a lot of tools that you can find where there's actual straps or even things that might zap you when you fall over, and just to remind you to pull your shoulders back and sit up a little bit taller or stand up a little bit taller. But something you might want to be conscious of if we're talking about how to look a little bit more polished and approachable. So the second thing is lean into who you actually are. So I'm going to share with you a personal example, but I think that you might be able to relate to a lot of what I'm saying. So I think a lot of us have a lot of grievances about ourselves. I think body image and the way that we see ourselves and our own body dysmorphia is very much a thing that's always been around for God knows how long, but certainly exasperated since we have social media and, any kind of marketing and that sort of thing. So the grass always looks greener on the other side, but chances are the person that's on the other side is probably yearning for something that you have too. So I think leaning leaning into who you actually are in some way is really important to do. And I'm not saying that like you have to love and embrace yourself. Yes, of course you should, but I think the reality is that we will always have some sort of body image issue around us. And I'm not saying that that's okay or that's normal. In fact, if you want to do any kind of plastic surgery, I am not against any of that at all whatsoever. I think you should do what you feel is right for your own body. But what I am saying is that you should accept some sort of baseline reality about yourself. So I grew up in New York City when I was a kid, and it was a very diverse place. Lots of people looked very different from me and each other, and that was very normal for me. It's not something I ever really thought about. By the time I turned 11 or 12, I moved to the suburbs of New York. It was very, for lack of a better word, it was very white. Suddenly, I was very aware of the fact that I looked very different from all the other kids in the school. And when you're in your formative years of puberty and as a teenager, you just want to fit in. And for me, I really struggled with the fact that I was Asian, okay? As crazy and stupid and weird as that sounds, I really started to hate the way I looked. It was the very essence of who I was. I hated the fact that I was Asian, and I hated the fact that I looked so different. And I really felt like that for many, many years. And how do you fight something like that, right? You really can't. And it's such a shame that it took years or whatever it was to actually lean into the fact and accept the fact that this is how I am, this is how I look, and accept that. But not only accept that, but like embrace that. But now I embrace the fact that I am Korean. I love the fact that I have Korean culture in my blood and that I spoke Korean in my house growing up. I love the fact that I grew up eating Korean food and that it happens to be my favorite cuisine still to this day. My kids can learn about Korean culture as well. What I am saying is that when you come from a place of self-loathing and now can come to a place of embrace, it's like a totally different way of living. It really is. And no one should hate the way they look because you look different in some way. And, you know, I don't mean just ethnicities. I just mean anything. We all look and are different in so many different ways. And I think that when you can finally come to that place and embrace yourself for who you actually are, it just makes all the difference in your confidence level. And the third one is about fashion. And I would say lean into what makes you feel good. Filter out all the noise that you see on Instagram, on influencers, on trends, and strangers mindlessly telling you what you should buy. Choose clothes that fit your body today. Choose clothes that make you feel comfortable. Choose colors that make you feel vibrant or happy. Choose a handbag that makes you feel special, that makes you feel good. To be honest, finding your style is really trial and error. I don't think that formulas work for everyone, and it really has to do with how it makes you feel. And frankly, the reason that the fashion industry is so big is because we all love to buy clothes or wear clothes that make us feel good, that express our personal style, or just generally express ourselves in a way without saying a word. The fourth tip I'm going to share with you is to have a grateful heart and show it through a smile. And that might sound a little bit weird, but I will say that smiling is probably the most approachable thing that you can possibly say about yourself. I just remember, like, when I was pregnant, I would walk around and random strangers would just smile at me just because I was pregnant. And it made me feel so good. Like, it just passing around smiles to strangers is such a great feeling when you receive it. But when you also give it and you just kind of walk around with a smile and that person smiles back at you, then that feels really good. And it's just one of those very quiet things that happens that is spreading positivity. And I will say that I struggle with resting bitch face. And so it's not my natural state to be smiling. My natural state is probably like either constipated or confused. Okay. So it is not my natural state to be smiling, But I will say that it is something I'm a lot more conscious of. It's something that I try to make a lot more effort in. And it's a way for me to remember about how grateful I am for everything that I have in my life. I think it's really easy for a lot of us to complain and commiserate with people. And it's an easy habit to get into. I'm guilty of that myself. But I also try really hard to remember my blessings. And showing my gratitude through a smile is a really nice way to do that. And I know a lot of people say to start a gratification journal and list like 5 things that you might be grateful for. But I will say I have a better tip for you. It's reflecting on 3 things that went well today. It really does shift your perspective and it really does work. It's a way of seeing things with like the glass half full. And then you really do have a firm illustration of what actually did go well today. And you're like, you know what? My life doesn't suck as bad as I thought it did because things actually went well today. So that's a really good tip I learned that really works for me and shifts my perspective. Okay, and the 5th and final tip I'm going to share with you is to block the negativity and feed the positivity. But what that means for me in 2024 is a lot of things, but it really relates to sort of our social network. That could mean cutting out fake people in your life. That could also mean cleaning out your social media feed, blocking out toxic influencers or people that just don't feed you anything positive and you come away feeling worse about yourself or comparing yourself. It could also mean setting boundaries for people who are toxic in your life, whether that be friends or even family, unfortunately. So what I also stopped doing was watching trashy reality TV. And I will tell you that made a huge difference to my mental health in terms of just my mood. And I think, for instance, like watching the Real Housewives franchise, just following all these really affluent people, seeing their opulent lives, and that was very entertaining, and that's what I used to watch it for. But it really evolved into the drama and the fighting and the gossip and the gaslighting and all those ugly, disgusting things that I used to walk away from watching those shows and I would feel so stressed. I would hate these people. I would be like, this person's nasty, this person's, and I couldn't really understand why I would have these visceral reactions to people I didn't even know. Like you just become sucked into the drama. And, you know, the behavior, I think we can all agree that we see on these kinds of shows is so gross. When you walk away from a show feeling stressed out, that's not a good thing. So what I ended up doing was I just cut out all toxic reality TV. Do I, watch it every once in a while? Yes, but I am not invested in it. It's not something I tune into. And I will say that small thing makes all the difference. When you surround yourself with positive people and positive energy, it makes all the difference. Another way to feed more positivity into your life is fill your social calendar with a lot of things. And it takes effort. It takes reaching out to people. It takes doing a little bit of research around your local area and seeing what's going on. It does take effort. But when you surround yourself with activities and things and people that you love and things that are fun, it just feeds your soul. And it's something that in this day and age where everyone's just glued to their phone, it's easier to stay at home and scroll. It makes a world of difference to actually go out and have these kinds of experiences. But it could also mean reading a good book or audiobook. It could also mean listening to a really good podcast that fills your soul. So it could be those things as well. But what I'm saying is just step outside your comfort zone, do something that's out of the ordinary, do things that where you can learn new things or meet new people and have different experiences and see how all of those things can change your beliefs about yourself. And it really does make a huge, huge difference. I think the way that you carry yourself has a lot to do with definitely how you feel about yourself and what you're presenting from the inside out. And that's really what it comes down to. So those are my tips on how to look classy if you're not that classy. Because again, I am not sophisticated and I don't think that living a certain lavish way of whatever society deems as being sophisticated means that you're a classy person. There's lots of sophisticated people who live lavish lives and are just not classy, and I would say are pretty gross. So, of course, these are just my opinions, but I would love to know if you have anything else to add, then definitely share them below because I'd love to hear them. So I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, I would love it if you could hit the thumbs up button. That really helps my small channel out. If you want to binge watch any of my other videos, you can do that here, and I will see you next time.